Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by Marshalls, where you never have to compromise between quality and price. The buyers at Marshalls hustle hard, working to bring you great deals on brand name and designer pieces. Because Marshalls believes everyone deserves access to the good stuff. Visit a Marshalls store near you or shop online at marshalls.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I am your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, published author, professional speaker, podcast host, or more appropriately, podcast co-host with my good friend and colleague, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, everybody. As always, great to be here for another episode. And again, pushing Dr. Matt on published author, and overcoming our imposter syndrome together.
Tracking it in real time, right? It's fine. I hate it so much. Thanks for
You're welcome.
Like all good therapy, it hurts a little bit. We have a really cool guest today. Diane, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell our listeners what you do and how you fit into this broader world of neurodiversity.
Okay, well, I am a recovering tax lawyer, realizing that was a really bad choice for me. And for the last 25 years, I've been committed to reforming education on the planet. You know, I went back to school, got a master's degree in education to confirm that nobody knew what they were doing, particularly with respect to diversity. But I honestly think nobody likes what's happening in most classrooms. And I'm also a published author. I'll put that out there. And I finally, at the end of 25 years, have really become clear about what it is that I uniquely offer and how it is poised to revolutionize how we look at learning and hopefully how we start educating not only the children, but all of us. Because one of my favorite quotes is from Alvin Toffler, who said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, although they are those. They will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." And we are all in that world now. And so every one of us needs to redefine ourselves as learners, as lifelong learners, and as important pieces in this mosaic of life.
So I love that. And yeah, I mean, the more time we spend in education, it feels like they are hanging on to the antiquated model and system where, education in 2024 looks a lot different. I'm fond of saying that kids today have more access to more information than any group of humans in history, which means the role of teachers and those of us who work in working with kids, we have to shift our role. We are no longer the sage. We're not the only person who has the information. They can pull up their phones and get the information. We have to teach them how to access that information. And like you said, to learn and unlearn and relearn. So with a lot of things like that, it's a lot easier said than done. what do you think gets in the way of us making that shift?
I think as much as change is a part of life, we are all resistant to change. And large systems that have large budgets and layers of administration are particularly prone to being stuck. And even though everything is pointing to the fact that what is happening is not working, there's still a lot of resistance. And there's a lot of fear of possibly being wrong if they try something else. So accountability is also a part of this that you have to, like, I have learned to honor that everybody needs to be sure that what they're investing in is going to produce results that people are going to be happy with. So, hey, hello.
Hey, buddy. So I have to talk to these people a little bit more. So, Diane, can you tell us a little bit more about how we get more people on board with this kind of thing? Like, obviously, going on a podcast gets the word out there, but like you said, people are resistant to change. And as I'm fond of saying as a psychologist, if people would change my life, my job would be a lot easier. So, what do we need to do?
Well, I think one of the issues is that we keep thinking change happens only in the head, learning happens only in the head. And I think one thing that I've learned along the way is our entire being, our body, our imagination, everything is a part of how we learn. And when we realize that giving people physical experiences that help them to change their story. For example, what I do is I've realized that one of the major missing pieces in our education, and particularly literacy education, which then forms every person's sense of how successful they are going to be, how valuable they are in the system, if they fit in or if they don't. And one thing that we've neglected to do is understand the importance of mastery of the symbols that we use for literacy, actually every single letter of the alphabet. And it's not enough for most people to just look at the letters, be told the name and a word that letter could start. And so I've realized that when you get in with your hands, your body, your imagination, creating a sense of community so your heart is activated as well, that's the way that humans are designed to really be our fullest. We have not experienced that yet. And here we are on the cusp of AI changing so much, and some people being willing to put things into their brains thinking that will make them better, when in fact humans have so much more available than we have even experienced. We were talking about Van Gogh and Da Vinci. They were two who understood that there is something beyond the physical, that our imagination, they were so immersed in every way in what they were doing, expressing it through painting, through sculpting, through drawing, and Da Vinci with his inventions. It's realizing our neurons are not just packets like computer cells for information that use energy. Our neurons are actually antenna to be activated and receive so many things that we can't explain where they come from. One of the things that happened to me when I relearned my alphabet and was holding clay letters that I had made myself in my hands, I suddenly could feel what learning felt like in every cell of my body. And that's why I say I'm a recovering lawyer. In law, I thought everything happened here, and I realized everything happens here. When we understand how important every part of our entire system is to being a human and to learning, it just changes everything. And I thought, wow, like every one of my cells is comprehending this. And I had never known that experience before. And that was the first time I started realizing maybe I'm not normal. And some of my experiences have been that since then, I occasionally receive spoken word poetry. I don't sit and think, I'm going to write a poem now. I am woken up and have this little voice in my head saying, go to your computer and type, or woken up and said, read this, now type. Or just when I was writing the introduction to my book, which is actually called Dear Genius, Harness the Hidden Power in Your ABCs, I thought I was writing the introduction, and suddenly I could see it was another poem. And they're not something that I have any control over. And so that's for me. And I look at all the people who are creative and the athletes who can slow down time and see the stitching on a baseball as it's going over the plate at 90 miles an hour. Like, there are so many things that we are doing beyond what makes any sense in our three-dimensional version of and Newtonian reality. And so it's starting to realize we are so much more. And I believe that our children are showing up with that message for us. And they are not wired to thrive in a system that does anything less than that. When I was first introduced to the concept of autism, a while back, which is what the name for some understanding of neurodiversity was, I started feeling that the children I was working with were here to keep me in line with love. And I don't know if you're familiar with David Hawkins and the power versus force, and that there's frequencies assigned, the vibrations of different emotions. And love was given 500, gratitude is 600. And then everything below love is a lower number. And I started thinking, if a child is in an environment where there is something below love, they have come and they are like a barometer of our frequency. They are giving us feedback about what our frequency is. And if we were to honor that and say, wow, how are we disconnected from love or above in this moment? For some, it's as though they were having to listen to nails across a blackboard, which maybe not many people know the sound of anymore, but they physically respond in ways to energies that we don't, like, other people don't think much about. So that's where I think we really need to start understanding. And some people feel, oh, this is going really woo-woo. Fortunately, science is now demonstrating all of this, demonstrating energies and frequencies. And I also certified as a yoga instructor and learned that all the mudras and the positions you do with your hands have to do with activating the meridian lines that acupuncture is based on and the flow of energy through the body. And now they have scientifically detected the humidity, the increased humidity in where the meridian lines are, to demonstrate that they actually do exist in the body. And so it's an exciting time to both be here when we're realizing, wow, diversity is actually really important for life and survival. And we're scientifically getting support for what have been either spiritual or artistic endeavors in the past to start saying, this is who we are. And when we activate who we are, then we are going to really experience what the human potential is. The other thing I will say is, in the research I did when I went back to school and got my master's in education, and ever since, has been around this concept of, what if we are all genius at something? And what if the first thing we do in school is to identify that? Or at any point, my oldest student so far was 77 years old. And he's now in his 80s, and he tells me that he's still waking up smiling every day, that he just remembers the day that he suddenly felt smart for the first time in his life when he was working with me. And so what I've recently done is look at the printing samples that I collect to demonstrate to people where they have gaps in their alphabet foundation. And up until very recently, I would use it to say, okay, look, we've got these gaps. we're going to work on it, and then we're going to show you in a very short period of time. First of all, we can fix messy writing in 2 days. Like there's all kinds of things that we can do. But I was focusing more on helping people to see, oh, this is what I need to fix, and motivate them in that way. And it suddenly occurred to me, actually, everybody's gaps demonstrate their unique genius, and also how they have been developing abilities to respond to the way that they learn differently. And so I'm just launching my writing genius profiles so that people can actually stand up proudly with what they've been feeling is messy writing their whole life, and declare where their place of genius is showing right there. And also say, and we're here to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Let's give you the choice of being in that place and having something that's completely coherent with conventional letters, so that your brain doesn't have to constantly process what letter you're looking at. You know, the creators, who I call the innovators, they've got so many versions of every letter in their head that there's a constant effort to determine what the actual letter is. So we create a standard version of every letter so that that's your reference, and you can choose it and have it, and it just makes life a lot sweeter and simpler. When you have interesting connections to the line, either going above or below, or in a variety of ways, that's who I call the trailblazers. Also, with respect to spacing, I say, you're just kind of creating your own route. And then it's looking at what are the versions of genius that you're demonstrating there, and how are we going to leverage that to give you something that will help you with your pattern resolution. But also, because you've done it with your hands, and we can look at it and see the change that has occurred, there is no denying that you have transformed. It's not just saying, oh, you can do this. I know you can do this. We're saying, let's just do it and show you. And just the smiles and the laughter that comes from people as they're, for the first time, printing out an alphabet that has no errors in it, like it's entirely conventional. That's a reality, a physical experience of knowing that something has happened, and we were honoring you every step of the way. We were giving you an opportunity to be part of a community who all were standing with you for your success. And now you have achieved something you never thought you could do. And another thing that we end up with is everybody can visualize or feel their alphabet and basically read it off forward and backwards. It's just giving people an experience of something and beginning with absolute faith in their ability to do it. So that's a long answer for it.
It was a long answer, but also like really important and poignant at the same time, because like I'm thinking from an educator standpoint as well. Like I was taught in a sense to teach without caring about like the traditional models and everything, more of like focusing on the individual, the student, the group, building that community like you were talking about, and just like reflecting that as well with you, like thinking about the teachers within public school, private school, what have you nowadays, who aren't necessarily adapting, and they're more like, it has to stay how it was, we have to stick with the curriculum, the traditional models are what's working, it's proven, blah 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 blah, etc. Like, what would you say to those kind of people? Because
it's not working.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not working. And in fact, so I'm in Canada and my province is Ontario. I'm in Toronto. And just before the pandemic, the Ontario Human Rights Commission was traveling through the province, getting stories from students, from parents, from educators, from administrators about the large number of people for whom the education system was failing them. And then they came out with their report at the beginning of 2022. They had 157 recommendations for improving literacy education. And at the same time, in 2021, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, our public broadcaster, had headlines that almost 50% of Canadian adults struggle with literacy. And they had all kinds of reasons for why that would be so. So it's not working. and, and they know it. If you are in a classroom, you know there are those students who are just not making it. And we've done a lot of standardized testing to demonstrate, there are 25% who somehow miraculously are feeling pretty confident and competent in what they're doing. There are 50% who are keeping their heads above water as they're paddling, and there are 25% who are drowning. But even for the 50%, it's not good enough for them. Like they can do more if they are given more. And I will also say I was in that top 25%. I was one of those freaks who loved to read, and although I really hated school, but I did finish with the highest marks in my high school. And so it completely changed me and made me feel like a more complete human when I experienced the alphabet in this way. So it's not working. They know it. It's just they've got so many more issues that they're dealing with now. And especially after the lockdowns and the loss of connection for however long it was. We had a very long period here. And so they're having a lot of behavioral pushback. But they're also seeing a lot of academic loss, particularly if you were at a particular age when you should have been learning something and you just didn't get it. Everything that they found in that report was before the pandemic. Since then, it's even worse. And add to all of this the fact that we've got a lot of newcomers coming to North America for whom English is not their first language. That's a whole nother layer that educators are expected to manage. So they really need help, and they haven't been given the tools that they need. And the reality is, it's not that complicated. Like what my message is, if we just give the right foundation or unlearn and relearn a new foundation at any age, because talk to my 77-year-old, we can all have a completely different sense of who we are and move from that place. It's just a matter of getting people to be willing to be open to it. And it begins with these assessments that are very quick and easy to administer, and getting that genius profile so that they can start talking with that language to their students and feeling the optimism that is required for a growth mindset. So that is what it is. And we know that these children, particularly the ones who don't fit the system, have so much to offer. I'll give you another little interesting side note. When ChatGPT first came on the scene, most of us were aware of it at the beginning of 2023. I have a friend who's in his late 60s, and so he grew up being told he was autistic, and demonstrated a lot of the symptoms of that, if we call them symptoms. But he was calling me every day and saying, have you tried ChatGPT? And I said, yeah, I've heard about it. I'll get to it. And then he'd call me a couple of days later. Did you get on ChatGPT? And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to. And then finally he said, no, you don't understand how important this is. Right now, AI is learning what a human is. And if the only people who are participating in creating it and populating its knowledge base are those who have been ostracized by the system, because many people who are neurodiverse have great skills in the field of computing and technology and are creating this technology right now. So if we don't have people who love humans and are heart-centered, like wholeheartedly feel a love for humans from a heart-centered place, informing AI of what a human is, I'm afraid of what's possible because he knows what it was like to be completely ostracized. He fortunately also had a mother who got, by the time he was in high school, them willing to have him go to school in pajamas and do the things the way, that worked for him. But he still has a lot of scars. And so I thought that was really interesting. And so I started getting on, and I would always say, please and thank you. And I started telling all of my friends who otherwise were thinking, oh no, this AI thing is not for me, or it's a bad thing, or whatever. I said, no, it's here to stay. And we all need to be contributing to the story of what it means to be a human. And that's why I say it's an exciting time. And it's also a time when every one of us feels like an outsider on some level. And the more that we tell each other how great that is, how awesome it is that we understand that we have uniqueness or that there's something missing, that's our opportunity for growth, is our opportunity for expansion. And let's embrace it and embrace everybody while we're doing that.
Wow. I mean, I think a lot about ChatGPT as a tool and a resource that helps a lot of neurodivergent folks, but I never thought of it through the lens of who's creating the content that creates the content, right? I mean, it's a machine, it's data in, data out. So like I need to like sit and apologize to my Siri, I think. So if we can swing back for a moment to this idea of how there are a lot of kids coming to this country for whom English is not their first language, right? And there are systems that are not really put in place to meet the needs of those kids. How would you propose we get there? Like, I have some ideas, but I tend to be a bit of an idealist. So I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Diane.
So I'll just back up a little bit and then go into what I see as a solution. So in Toronto, where I live, we're having another subway line installed right through the heart of the city. And it was literally going through a park across the street from where I was living in downtown. And the provincial government decided that the 61 mature trees that were on the south end of the park, 70 years old, amazing, amazing trees, rare urban forest, that they decided that they were in the way and that they should cut them all down and use that to make it easy to put the subway in that section. And I was one of the few people who was trying to stop it. And when they finally were all cut down, at first there were just the stumps. And I remember walking past there and thinking, this is a demonstration of what is missing in our education system. We are not teaching with compassion and connection to life itself. And then I sat down and I thought, why is this happening in Toronto that had so much promise, has so much heart, so many wonderful things happening? And the message that I got back was, it's because there are so many newcomers coming in and we are not caring for the trauma that they bring with them. That it's not enough just to say, oh, we have this educational system and we're going to teach you the language and we're going to teach you the facts and the math and whatever. We have to begin by looking at every person as a human and making sure that we are taking care of human needs. And most of us who have grown up in North America have no idea what it's been like for those who are coming as refugees, for those who are coming, because of difficult economic situations where they grew up. Like, we have no idea the trauma, the level of trauma that has been experienced, and how much more sensitive we need to be to that before we even talk about educating. But again, then I go to, well, it's something as essential and foundational as the alphabet can be the first point of contact for that compassion and connection. And that's why the way that I teach it is through team building. My motivation was to be able to demonstrate that any classroom teacher could teach my method to an entire class. And I ran a summer camp for 2 years where I could facilitate 80 campers at one time. And I wanted to show when we come together in community, when we really have that foundation in place, then we are going to set them up for success in a way that is not possible any other way. That's where it all begins. It's just understanding, first of all, these are humans. And for the children, they may have had no school. They may have had, a little bit. Their parents may not have had school. They have a lot of gaps to fill in. But most importantly, they need to feel that they are valued as humans and that they are seen to have everything they need to nurture a successful life. I don't think it's that difficult, whether or not it's someone's first, second, or fifth language, and however old they are. Like I've worked with many adult newcomers, and those who go through my program, they say, why doesn't everybody who's learning English in Canada have this experience? Why is that not happening? And I approach the different agencies, and they are all very resistant to changing their ways. But we have to start showing it's not working and we need to step up.
From that, I have a question for you for the people who kind of twist it a little bit. And I don't know the specifics on Canada's education department systems compared to America's, obviously, but in America at least, we have the mentality that things should just go back to how they were, and if you're coming here from somewhere else, you should just assimilate. You should just get better at becoming American, whatever that means. And we have so many different states where it's we don't want to teach all these things about diversity or other perspectives in the world because it goes against, quote, being American. And then we have others where it's, no, we need to promote those. We need to talk about queer inclusion. We need to talk about trans people. We need to talk about all these different identities and bring them to the forefront because it's part of what it is to be a human, like you were saying. And what would you say, in a sense, to the people who are in the first group where it's, no, you need to assimilate. You need to fall in line and be part of the community because this is what we expect from you?
I think now that we see that the entire world is looking at the entire world instead of just being able to be in our bubble, I'm in my 60s. I grew up in a bubble thinking that North America was the be all and end all of how to live and that the whole rest of the world must be wishing to be in North America. And of course, there was the American dream, which was considered the ultimate. I don't think that all the issues that we're having with mental health and physical stress, Americans are the least healthy people in the world physically. And I don't know what the statistics are for mental unwellness, but I imagine it's pretty high as well.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right.
And so if they want to continue pretending that this is what everybody in the world aspires to, and particularly that wave of people are going to quickly find out that nature does not like one organism. Nature demands diversity for survival. And I think we're now seeing this is the effect of thinking that the American dream is the ultimate. And I'll just say, my own personal story of having my final mind shift was when around 20 years ago, I decided I wanted to learn how to partner dance. And Toronto's very cosmopolitan and a lot of different people and different styles of dance. And there was a vibrant dance community. And so I was dancing with people from all over South America, from Asia, from Europe. And it was the South Americans who really helped me to see that they have values that are so completely different than North American. And I started to see, oh, they look at us and think, you guys are messed up. You don't understand how important it is to have family and stay connected and care for each other in ways that that wasn't happening here. So I suddenly realized, oh, this American dream, like it's become a nightmare. Yes, we understand change is scary, change is hard. And that's why I advocate doing something, unlearning and relearning something just to give yourself the neurons that can accept more change. I always advocate for unlearning and relearning the alphabet because it has so many more benefits. But anything, unlearning and relearning something is a really important step for everybody's wellness.
I mean, this makes me think of the importance of creating space and opportunities to facilitate, to alchemize change. Because I think a lot of what we're telling teachers right now is help these kids, give them growth mindsets, make sure they do the thing, but they're not giving them the time or the space or the infrastructure to support that. You went out and sought out partner dancing, which meant you got access to these people from different cultures, different worldviews that sort of put your own growth process on a rocket ship. So we've got to find ways to give kids these spaces, and Jake and I worked together at a school that did a lot of project-based learning several years ago. And it amazed me how often you'd see kids who were like, I'm the smartest kid from my town. I'm very smart. They'd walk into the space and our teacher would be like, all right, here's a power drill. How do you use the power drill? And the kids would stare at him like, I know 17 times 44. They're like, that's great. How to use a power drill. The kids got so much more out of those classes than any math, science, reading, writing class I think we could have ever thrown at them. And I think modern best practice education has to include both. It's not, oh, it would be great if we could. It's we must. I think it's got to be our mission moving forward.
Right. And not knowing how things are built and how things work is a major disservice. And then just saying, oh, social emotional learning, that is where it's at. They compartmentalize it. And my point always is if you are starting to teach people literacy without the right tools and without a solid foundation in themselves and in the symbols that they are going to learn to use for various purposes, it's not unlike sending someone up to the plate with a hockey stick. A very Canadian example. Some people will be able to hit a home run with a hockey stick. And some people may occasionally connect with a hockey stick, and some people will never, ever hit the ball with a hockey stick. And it doesn't matter how many times we tell them, you're doing a great job. We love your process. How does that make you feel? No matter how many times we bring those experiences in, they are still going up to the plate with a hockey stick. And until we make sure they have the right equipment for the job, the right tools, the right understanding of how things work, like all of these other programs are going to fall flat. They'll do a certain thing, but still, there are a lot of adults walking around thinking that they are less brilliant than they are because they didn't have strong literacy skills, or they have messy writing, or they can't spell. And they think, well, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter because I never write anymore. I say, but you're still on every screen looking at the printed letters. Your brain is still trying to make the patterns out of those symbols that you have yet to settle on. And so it's distracting you. It could be on some level frustrating you. It could be causing stress that's leading to other physical ailments. Like I've worked with so many students who've come because they had headaches and stomach aches and were missing school a lot. I say, well, school avoidance for all of these things has to do with feeling that there's something not right, and it's not right, but nobody is giving you the keys to the solution. So I would say we need to really understand how important these foundational tools are, because anybody in construction knows you get a faulty foundation, eventually it's going to crack. So making the foundation, like, yes, having unconditional faith in everyone's ability and embracing the ways that we approach things and understand that we are a complex puzzle. And if any one of us is missing from that piece, then we're never going to accomplish what we ultimately can do when we all come together.
Wow. So I have sort of my own take on the alphabet thing. So one of the great speakers in gifted education here in the U.S. is a guy named Jim Delisle. And Jim is a dear friend. And, he mentored me earlier in my career. He was one of the first people who looked at me and said, "You can do this." And I was like, "Who, me? The guy behind me? Who, what?" But Jim does this exercise talking about sort of how people don't like repetition, right? So he has a room of teachers, like, say the alphabet, A through Z. They all say the alphabet, A through Z. He goes, "Great, now do it again." And everyone looks at each other. We shrug your shoulders, so you do it again. Yeah, like, do it a third time. And by the third time, people are ready to riot. They are like, in those conference roundtables, they're like, "Ah." And I'm listening to you being like, learn the alphabet in different ways. And I'm like, if only Jim could hear this, right? I'm going to send this episode to him when we're done. And Jim, when you hear this, we love you, buddy. We hope you're doing well. But like, that's the tweak. If you can learn, unlearn, relearn, rather than repeat, you're increasing engagement, you're increasing retention, and you're increasing enjoyment. I mean, I see no downsides here because I don't know a single teacher who wants to teach A through Z 5 times in a row the exact same way, just like I don't know any kid who wants to learn A through Z 5 times in a row the same way. I mean, Jake, do you?
No, never. Literally never.
So you're really onto something here, which is so cool to share. And thank you for sharing your not only unique perspective on it, because I knew that you had a unique perspective, but the research and the methodologies that support it. It's like you said before, it's like, oh, I'm afraid, you might think this sounds woo-woo, but here's the science. And anytime anyone can go, here's the science, it always makes me really happy because it's like, haha, we are right.
Yeah. It reminds me of what I used to do when I had opportunities to go into classes where students were learning to be teachers, like whatever the programs are called in various places. And I would go with my old big income tax act. And I would just plunk it on the desk and I'd crack it open at any page. And I'd say, I have something really important I want to share with you. And I would just start reading from my income tax act. And, it's like, unless you have the context for the particular words, it's going to make no sense. And I would read and I would read and I would wait until I could see enough fidgeting. And then I would say, okay, who wants to summarize what I've just shared with you? And they'd kind of look around like, we have no idea what you just said. I said, okay, well, let me just then finish. I'll do a little more until I could see that they were just really about to lose it. And I said, okay, so how's it going? And they're kind of going, we have no idea what you just said. And I said, well, should I read it again? Or should I slow it down? Would that help? And they're all kind of looking at me. And I would say, okay, how many of you would become a behavioral problem if this was your experience every single day? And they would all put up their hand and suddenly realize, oh, there are some students for whom this is the experience. And they start trying to find other reasons why the person's not learning the way that they're expected to, or giving labels as though there's something wrong with them. And it's just realizing, if I had given them certain terms and understanding, I could read a certain passage and it would have made perfect sense to them. And it's just, if you have to give the right tools and you have to understand. But the fact is, when you do it right for those who learn differently, you are giving enrichment to everybody. And I can attest to that. When it totally changed my experience of how I am as a learner. And that's what gave me the confidence to try dance that I've been afraid to do my whole life. When you just make sure that you've got the right things, but everybody is going to benefit from this. I trained with Ron Davis in 1999. That's when I started. And he wrote the book, The Gift of Dyslexia. And his program that I trained in was a one 30-hour program. You'd work with one person for a week and have phenomenal results. And I said to him, I think I'm here to do something about education. I want to find a way to make this scalable. And they have created other systems, and they did some research in the 90s to show that grade 1 students who learn their alphabet solidly, mastered their alphabet, and then learned sight words, when they came back to them in grade 3, there was not one referral to special ed, not one diagnosis of ADD, and 2 to 8 times the national average being referred to gifted programs. So everybody wins when you give this kind of holistic, truly holistic, hands-on, imagination activated, heart connected experience. Everybody wins. And I really think the world would be very different if we just started off that way. But as I keep saying, it's never too late. It's never too late. I'm also thinking it might be fun to share the poem that is in the back of my book, because I think it might be interesting to your audience.
Absolutely.
Okay. Dear genius, yes, I'm talking to you. You whose eyes betray the wounds of being the bully or the bullied in the schoolyard. Remembering to this day the feeling of the pit in your stomach that day when you gave the wrong answer in class and everybody laughed. I hear what you think you can or cannot do, and what your 3rd grade teacher sent home in notes about your missing the brains, effort, or focus boats. It's time to cross the moat from that world with your banner unfurled and wearing the coat of endless possibilities. It's been many score that the hallowed doors of learning have been my muse. School may bore you, but I refuse to lose my vision of genius for all who are bruised. And in my cruise, this is what I've seen. The truth about learning is ever changing. They keep rearranging the stories as the academy jostles for glory, inventing new labels that pain and worry, the cruelest form of allegory, and changing nothing that really matters. If reading our math cause stress or your writing's a mess, then you have yet to address the critical basics for your learning success, or be impressed by the value of knowing some things with certainty. Your foundation had cracks, so you made your own hacks, cheated or guessed, hid your shame to this day in a game you weren't equipped to play. But don't assign blame. We're all doing our best, caught in a system that is foundation-less and misunderstands how to use the test. Your stutter shows they have work to do to find the true genius residing in you. You choke on your words, desperate to be heard. This may sound absurd, but here's the word. The obstacle in your mouth starts in your head, and your dread of being misread turns your tongue to lead. They call you slow, but you're really too fast to stay with the pack, and in your mind go back and forth with thoughts and visions, suffering derision because you don't go with their flow. If they only knew what you know. If there was time to explore, they could ask for more. But the rush to cover the curriculum means that instead you lie in your bed wondering what's wrong with my head. There's nothing wrong with you. You who seek only to accept and be accepted in love, but feel the need to succeed, to rise above the others or fall behind. It's not a race, sweet child of grace. Their taste for haste exacerbates confusion and comes from an illusion of separation from the whole, resulting in waste of your potential as you play the wrong roles, chase unfulfilling goals, and eat from the bowl of limitations. It's time to get straight to the point of your greatness. It's in you, but you don't know it. You haven't learned how to consistently show it. It's never too late to return to the gate and lay a new foundation. When you join the genius nation, you with focus and poise make an authentic noise and claim your unique location with unmessable elation. Stand up because you matter. Without you, the world would be flatter and destiny's pattern would be missing a part. You were born to make life your art. So start today to craft a new way. I've got your back. Trust me with your heart. Love your soul.
Wow. Like Seriously, wow. Like,
It like sounded like it reminds me of like a more contemporary quote adult, because I wouldn't really call him adult all the time, but like a more contemporary adult Dr. Seuss style poem for like a helpful kind of way.
So yeah, so that's the kind of thing that shows up for me. I can't explain it, but it exists. So like that's kind of my message in a poem.
it reminded me of Desiderata. I was just like sitting there, like thinking about how many times in my life I felt that was speaking directly to me, and like how many times you spoke, you pulled back the little corners of gifted experience. Like they say, you're too slow, you're actually too fast for the pack. Like, I mean, that's a thing people are going to need to hear, and I think we've got a social media teaser for this episode, huh, Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. Thanks for making our job easy for us, Diane. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift to our wrap up questions. I'm going to start. I'll say, Diane, if you could have any superhero in the world on speed dial, who would it be and why?
Superhero. Of course, what comes to my mind is Wonder Woman. Just somebody who has power and speed and just the ability to never be crushed by anything that somebody is saying against you or doing against you. Like you just got the power to protect and defend. Because that's what I feel I need to do now. And that's what it's taken me a long time to kind of have the courage to come up and say what I'm saying. And so I know there will be many who will not like what I'm saying. So I think that's it. Just being Wonder Woman with my bracelets, just going pew pew. Those aren't going to come to me.
And even those people, you can also just put the lasso of truth on and be like, why do you really feel that way? Like, it's not about me, is it?
We're afraid. Yeah.
I feel like that tends to be the central focus for it.
That's true. Okay, you're right.
Power to you, though. But my question for you is, what's your favorite word and why?
Hmm. Okay, this is a crazy one. Just why it's coming to my mind is pneumonoultrascopic silicovolcanoconiosis. When I was in grade 3, I did that for show and tell. I wrote it up on the blackboard for the longest word in the dictionary because at the time that's what it was. And so I guess that was really showing me that I am at heart a word geek. But truly the word that I think is my most powerful word is gratitude. I think gratitude is it changes everything. At our lowest times, when we can think of something that we're grateful for, and particularly the little things, that gives us grounding back to what really matters.
I mean, she doubled up on us, and they were both awesome words, including, I think, the thing we've heard gratitude before. We definitely have not heard the super long word that I can't repeat here. Well, Diane, you are a disruptor and a visionary, and we are here to amplify your work and celebrate the good that's going to come from it because we need to ask these questions. We need to shake things up. And there might be some people who don't like it, but you've got two people here who do. All right. So then for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, giving a big thanks to our guest today, Diane. Keep learning, keep loving, keep living, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. You want to say goodbye, Jake?
Yeah, it's always great to meet everybody, meet new people, be here with you, Dr. Matt, and our audience. And Diane, obviously, huge thank you to you. Your story, everything you were sharing was incredible. And I just have one quick question for you before we head out is, where can everybody find you?
Well, my website is The Learning Force, like the force be with you.com. That's probably the easiest place. The other is on LinkedIn, Diane Devenyi, Dianedevenyi. So I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn, but you can find me through the website, The Learning Force.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much to the both of you for doing what you're doing.
It allows us to meet awesome people like you and amplify each other's work. So it really is a win-win. So go check out The Learning Force, and may it, of course, be with you. Cue my Catholic upbringing, and also with
and
you.
also with you.
Live long and prosper. Wait, that's the wrong fandom. Oh my gosh. Well, this was another fantastic episode. Thanks for listening, and we can't wait to run into you guys again soon. Take care out there.
Bye, everybody.
Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.